What's up guys, M80 BcJ here, back again with another YouTube video. Today we're going to be going over all of the VCT Americas teams and kind of ranking them on seeing how well they would place at champions this year. I feel like I have a pretty good understanding of where I would rank these teams. And so yeah, we're going to go ahead and get that done today. First team we have here is 100 Thieves. I think they're a pretty solid team with a lot of firepower, and I think this meta does well with teams that have a lot of firepower. So like initially I'd say like they're up here and like the B to A range. It just depends on like how fast they can mesh. I think for me, I've seen enough positives winning the first split and making them way to Shanghai. I think easily deserves an A spot in this tier list. I think they have the potential to go far in a tournament like champions. It's just, can they keep that level of consistency, or is it just a good moment for them? Next team is Cloud9. I think Cloud9 is more of a tough team to judge. It's a lot of new variables added. Like first time Moose has played in VCT Americas. We bring back Rooney, who I would say like didn't fit in or mesh well with the old team, the old roster. You know, bringing back Vanity after the same thing, kind of same situation. But they have a lot of bright points. I think Oxy being their biggest star definitely helps this team a lot. I think Oxy's been performing pretty high. His confidence is at an all-time high.
I am actually just the best player in Valorant, bro.
And I think, like I said, if your duelist is popping off and you're playing well in this meta, I think you can go pretty far. It's definitely B to C for me. I'd say I'll put him at B for now because of their current form and like how they're playing. I definitely see a lot of bright spots with their team. Let's hope that the roles like they actually like stick through this time. I think this team has always had like pretty big role problems, but I'm hoping Imi and the team had figured this one out. They look better than last year for sure. Next team is EG. I think EG is such a tough team to rate. It's a very like streaky team to me. This team is the identity of like, we can be up here in AB or we can be down here in CD. And it's really just dependent on, is Jawjimo gonna pop off? Because if Jawjimo could pop off, like he can be up here. I actually think they can compete. Maybe not at the level of 100 Thieves right now, but they can compete at a C9 level easily. They could be above them, but current form, I think with the big meta changes, these other teams are going to have advantages. They're already like been playing together for so long. Like I feel like the 100 Thieves and C9 cores already kind of know what they want to do. And if the meta changes, it doesn't matter for EG or for these teams. Whereas EG, I think they might struggle to adapt. I'll probably put them in like C or D. I'll keep them in C for now. I think this is a good spot for them. They can compete with these teams. And that's the thing, is that all the Americas teams can kind of compete, I'd say. Besides two, which I'll get into. And the two teams that I think are struggling the most, for me, it's MIBR and Furia. I think these two teams, they definitely need major help. Like, I think Furia making one roster change was bringing in Shand. It could be good. Like, they could be in D. We'll leave it like that for now. I think, for me, these teams have been struggling so hard for so long, and they've kind of kept this core. The bright spot for Furia for me is MWZera. I think this guy has a really, really high potential as a player and a duelist. I've seen him pop off. I've seen him succeed. But MIBR, like, I don't see a bright spot right now. And I need to be impressed before I think that they can beat any of these teams in C, B, or A. Like, for me, they can't compete. They're not at the same level right now, and they need to improve. Hoping that Fraud can figure out what's going on with MIBR and help them get back up to these, ranks. I know that they have beaten these teams in the past, but for me, it's a consistency thing. I do not think MIBR or Furia could compete consistently with these other teams. Speaking of consistency, the G2. I think G2 is one of the most consistent teams in the league. They were in Ascension as well. Always, it was either them or M80. And I think them being so consistent leaves them in like the A tier. I think the only thing that kind of gives me slight concern is that they've had a trouble figuring out who their duels player is. At first it was Saya player on guard, and then it moved to, Tex, and then it moved to, oh, now we're on to Leaf, and now we're on to Icy. And it's like, at some point, you got to figure out who your player is, and I think Icy they've kind of landed on. They've kind of built this foundation around him, and they kind of believe in that system that he is bringing them. I think he's been a good entry. I obviously played with Icy on EG Reserve. I have a lot of trust and faith in him as a player. So I think this could be a really good landing spot for him. I think that Icy could be what they were missing, and they could go in a really deep run in Champions. I could see them placing top 8 or top 6 at Champions this year, if they qualify. So that's kind of where I'd leave them. I think they're better than 100 Thieves current form. they're genuinely more consistent as a team. I think the way they play, the way they call is genuinely more consistent. Doesn't matter the meta, doesn't matter how good or bad their comps are. I think they're genuinely a pretty solid team, so they got to be high A for me. Next team is Crew. I think Crew is individually like one of the best teams in the league right now. I don't know if they're like better than 100 Thieves per se. Like consistency wise, they are not that consistent. Crew can be one of the best teams or the worst teams in the league, and so for that, I think maybe that warrants them to stay in B. I'd probably put them ahead of Cloud9 right now. I think their form just looks so much better than Cloud9. And if I had to pick a team to go far in Champions, I'd probably pick Crew. I think that they could get really streaky, get really hot, and they could go far. So I'll pick Crew over Cloud9. I'll put them in the B tier. I think this is a good, solid list so far, and I think this might be our first S tier team. I think they have a lot of the core foundation built. They changed their coach out recently, which is a big question mark for me, and it makes me want to, like, you know, move G2 up. But I think that they're fundamentally structured way better. I think they have the best duelist in the game, which is Ospas. I think that the way that they want to play and play through Ospas has clearly been shown already, and the cohesion with the old roster has been pretty solid in my opinion. Like, I think that they're one of the best, if not the best team in the league. So for me, putting them in S, they're very close. I really want to say like G2 is close. 100 Thieves can easily take them. Crew can beat them if they're streaky. Cloud9 could give them a fight. Like, all these teams could give them a fight, but I think Leviathan, just because of having Ospas and no one else in the league has that X factor, I do think that they edge them out just slightly. I love the roster that Lev has built this year. I think that all the players have the potential to pop off in their own roles, so I'm definitely looking forward to seeing them at Champions if they can qualify. Next team is Loud. I think Loud is such an interesting team to me. Like, they've been in S, they've been in A before, but I think without Ospas and losing their duelist player, QCK, I'm not sure how this team's going to play. I could easily see them being like a C tier team here next to EG. I think that EG has a better duelist than Jajimo. I think that EG has less time together, so that might edge, like that might give less the edge, or you know, that might give like Loud the edge here. Obviously you have Les, Sodhawk, Tui's and Kanzine, like they've been playing together for a long time, but I think for me the roles just don't make sense. I think EG has better roles and a better system than Loud current form. I'm excited to see the new Loud with like the coaches taking more of a the coaches are being way more involved in interviews that I've read. So I think like Loud could have the potential to improve, but current form, if I had to pick a team to go into Champions, I think they're on the same level as EG, and I don't know if they could beat a team like Cloud9 or Crew if they were getting really hot. I think they'd struggle. So I'll put them in C tier for now. I think that looks solid so far. We got two teams left. I think Energy and Sen. I'll do Sen first. Sen's an easy one for me. I think Sen is easily like one of the better A tier teams. Could be S, but I think like just because they're pretty inconsistent as a roster. I really love Zekken. I think Zekken is in argument for the best duelist in the league. I think it's him and Ospas, and I don't think there's anyone really that close. I think Zekken is on that level of duelist right now, where I'd put him in like the high A. I think high A is good. He could go S, like this team could be up here, just like G2 could. I really think like these three teams are the best in the league, and they're just so consistent. But Sentinels for me is the opposite. Like they're less consistent than these teams, but they have the potential to be better than everybody. Like they won Madrid. They showed their level of skill and how individual they could be as a team. Like for me, that keeps them in A. Like their individual level of talent that they have with the cohesion brought in from Kaplan and John, like Zelsis being a big part of their glue. Like I really think like this team has the pieces, and that's why they're in A, and high A. I think they have the potential to be better than G2 and 100 Thieves. Easily. Like I could see that happening. And the last team is Energy. I think this team is going to be the hardest to rank on the whole list, because this team has players that have been in S tier for so long, but they just aren't meshing as well as they should. They obviously recently just broke up the year before, so something wasn't going right. Like this team decided that they were not ready to like compete again together. Like they had thought that this journey was done. But now they're back together. FNS and Som joined the team again. I just don't know where to rank this team. They could easily be a B tier team, compete on the same level as like C9, but at the same time, I don't know, man. I could see them dropping down to somewhere like C. Being at the same level of EG, I think they're slightly better than EG when it comes to system. EG has about the same level of roles. I think EG and Energy look very similar to me when it comes to like roles. Because Jojimo and Victor are mainly like rifle duelists. Like they're not known for like opping. I think like every other team has like a better op duelist, like an opping duelist. So I think for me, like that's where I'd rank these teams. I think all the teams in C tier for me have a duelist that is primarily using a rifle, so they lack an op threat, and we're hoping that like the Neon meta like carries. I really think like these three teams are gonna buy into the Neon meta, and they could beat all of these teams. Like I could see EG, Energy, and Loud beating all the teams above them if the Neon meta carries on. And I think that's kind of where I see them. For Champions 2024, I see those teams buying into Neon, going into like a really hard structured, like, you know, fast-paced default almost every time with Neon on a lot of maps. And if that works out, it could be really good for them. But if they ended up, you know, losing to the operator, or, you know, these other teams that have all these X factors on their team, it's going to be tough. And I think that's why I'd probably put them in like C or B. Like all these teams in C could be here. I think that they just lack an op threat, and that's why they're in the C tier. Just one tier below Crew and C9. Because all these other teams here have really good op threat, really good duelist that can do it all kind of thing. Whereas I think Energy, EG, and Loud, they need to develop that skill. Victor needs to start buying the op again, bringing it back. Jojimo, same thing. I'd say the exact same thing. Like these duelists are S tier duelists with the rifle in their hands. But I need to see more. I need to see that development. So I think for me, that's where I rank these teams. I believe in everybody. Like all these teams, I believe that they could all beat each other. Like I said, I think the only teams that will struggle are like Furia and MIBR. I could see Furia doing well with MW0, and you know, maybe this roster change brings new life. But for me, this is where I'd have my teams ranked for Champions 2024. I believe in all of us in Americas. I think we're still the best league in the world. But this is where my current rankings stand, and I'm pretty confident with that. I'm pretty happy. Thank you guys for watching. Be sure to follow us on all of our socials down below, and also follow us at Twitter at M80GG. Appreciate you guys so much, and thank you for all the support given to us, not only the Valorant team, but all of us as an org. Really appreciate you, and hope you guys enjoyed the tier list. I think I did a pretty good job. I'm hoping that this sticks through. I'm not like, you know, super confident that one of these teams could, you know, end up popping off. I could definitely see like an Energy going up, or an EG. I could see EG beating some of these teams easily. So I'm hoping that like this gives you like a kind of a good outline of where I think these teams could place. But know that they're all really solid. Thank you guys for watching, and have a good night.